Snap out of it. Stop thinking your vote doesn't matter and doesn't affect our community. This November, truth is, we need everyone to vote. Fill out your ballot early and return it before November 7th. Then text your family and friends that their vote matters and remind them to get up, get out, and be a voter. A message from the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County.
All right, welcome, good evening to the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County Forum for candidates for Mukilteo City Council positions 4, 5, and 6. My name is Paul Benz. I'm a member of the Snohomish County chapter of the NAACP, which is a proud co-sponsor of these candidate forums this fall. And we look forward to the conversation with our candidates this evening. This forum is being live streamed to our League YouTube channel. And to those in the virtual space, thank you for joining us tonight. A recording of the forum will be available on this same YouTube channel for later viewing. Let me provide some background on the responsibilities of City Council members. City Council members manage basic public services such as sewer, water, fire, police, roads, parks, you name it. They establish and enforce local laws, control how land can be used, and provide direction to the mayor or the city manager. They manage relationships with other governments, nonprofits, businesses, and tribes for the benefit of the city. Our candidates tonight for the Mukilteo City Council are Ashwin Sangvi, position 4, Richard Emery in position 4, Riaz Khan in position 5, Michael Dixon in position 5, and Donna Vago in position 6, Dodie Carlson in position 6. I don't think I missed anybody, did I? We have a good group here tonight. It is the policy of the League to be nonpartisan. Therefore, we neither endorse nor oppose candidates or parties. The rules for participation in this forum tonight were sent ahead of time to all the candidates. I will pose the questions and will clearly state the amount of time allowed for each answer. We are using a countdown timer visible to all the candidates, and time limits on answers will be strictly enforced. I will change the starting order for each question, of course, alternating candidates in the starting position to ensure a fair sequence. The order for the first question will be Richard Emery in position 4, Riaz Khan to follow. Has Riaz joined us? There's Riaz. All right. And Donna Vago, then Mike Dixon, Ashwin Sangvi, and then Dodie Carlson. So we'll go in that order tonight, and let's begin. So for the first question, candidates, we have everybody has 2 minutes to respond to this. And Mr. Emery, we'll start with you. And the question is this: what are the major issues you feel need to be addressed by this office? Please explain why you are focusing on these issues. And 2 minutes again for each person. Mr. Emery, please begin.
Thank you very much for the forum and the opportunity to respond to these questions. Appreciate it. I think there's 2 major issues for Mukilteo. There are other 2 big ones, I believe, are short and long-term financial planning, and the second is waterfront development. Appropriate financial planning is essential to the operation of the city. Since the vast majority of our operational expenses are in our general fund, the cash flow projection for 2024 and 25 is necessary to be able to plan for maintaining services over the next 2 years. That would be a good start. Since expenses generally rise faster than revenue, the city must have a long-term financial plan to balance the general fund over time, without affecting the service levels our residents expect. This plan should examine revenue options, operating expenses, total cost of maintaining a standalone fire department, the potential impact of development under current land use and zoning standards, and the use of our ending fund balance for capital projects, durable equipment, facilities improvement, and other one-time expenses. Second issue, waterfront development. The waterfront is wonderful and one of the few places in the county where people can access beaches. The Port of Everett recently offered to help with the development of our waterfront, suggesting something very different from our existing waterfront master plan. The city and the port are currently discussing what the port wants to do, what might be expected from the city, how the city might benefit. Maybe they could do phase 3 and 4 of Lighthouse Park, and how the development would meet the needs and expectations of our residents, and the time frame for either the city or the port to complete any development. All of these will likely involve trade-offs of various kinds, which need to be evaluated to see which is in the best interest of the city of Mukilteo and its residents.
Thank you, Mr. Emery. Next, with this question is Mr. Khan, please.
Yes.
Go ahead, Riaz.
Yeah, my name is Riaz Khan, Mukilteo City Council member. I'm appointed, elected, and rerunning again for the council position. So the question is all about the waterfront, right? So I'm not going to read the book. I'm going to say specific what the issues right now at waterfront. What I want to see, the developments at waterfront is, I want to see waterfront development to make it happen faster. Should not take, it's been talking about many years. Nothing happened. So I want to make sure it should be done as soon as possible. How's it getting possible? We should get involved the Chulale tribes and, like Port of Everett, the city of Mukilteo. So the partnership is real important to continue to work at waterfront. And even the right, is not only is very important, the only thing is we have to encourage the Chulale tribes to work not only together, we can make it, we can ask them to get faster along with this waterfront project. So I want to see, a lot of developments at the waterfront. The first thing is like open space and the restaurants and recreations, and the parks. So, and also I want to see the new parking garage there, so people can park. Right now is very, very difficult to park at waterfront. The most important thing is right now is parking garage and a new bridge on 525. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Let me make sure everyone understands the question now. It's what are the major issues you feel need to be addressed by this office? And then explain the question. So thank you. And please, Ms. Vago, go ahead.
Hi. One of the major issues I believe that we should be addressed by this office is assisting and attracting startup and small locally owned businesses to Mukilteo. Tax incentives are not enough to attract businesses these days. They are now looking for vibrant and supportive communities where they can grow roots. Locally owned businesses are a crucial element for our city. It builds wealth, provides jobs, there's less income inequality, and it builds a stronger social network in the community. Developing our waterfront is part of creating that vibrancy and culture businesses are looking for. Another issue is high-density housing. Mukilteo has no more buildable land here, and we have geographical limitations for building new infrastructure such as roads. So I oppose rezoning single-family neighborhoods for more density. It's imperative to balance economic growth with our capacity to increase our population. So to sum it up, my concerns are city planning and maintaining Mukilteo's standard of living and building a stronger economy. We are not a large urban area, and we should not be planning for one.
Thank you. Now let's continue with Mr. Dixon.
Hi, good evening. So to reframe the question, what do I think are the top issues? There are a couple of issues. First, I want to just talk a little bit about my background because I think it'll inform how I will address the issues that I see. I've been a three-term elected water sewer commissioner, twice for the Alderwood Water and Wastewater District, which is the largest special purpose entity in the state of Washington, and now currently from Mukilteo Water and Wastewater District. In fact, I'm currently the board chair. Much of my background is either in public finance or managing large business units within private companies. I own my own small business. And because of my experience as a water sewer commissioner, I've spent a lot of time on budgetary type issues. The biggest challenge that I see with the city right now, from the perspective of a city council member, is they have good processes on paper for budgeting and capital planning, but they don't actually follow them. And what I mean by that, and a perfect example, is the equipment replacement reserve. Currently, an issue is it's actually underfunded. And in fact, they did not fund it this past year and are currently about to do the same thing this year. The analogy is, say if you operate your house and you wanted to buy a car next year, and you said to your kids, we're not going to eat for the whole year. Instead, we're going to pay for the car. But you could have planned for that car in your budgetary process. And in fact, they're required to do that. So that's one of the issues that I want to get on the table, is how to implement better discipline around budgetary issues. Long-term planning is fantastic. We can definitely address that, but basic budgetary issues. And then probably the third issue is obviously the waterfront. That's a core issue for everyone. We want to kind of work together to get that done. But understanding our role as city council members from a governance perspective, as policymakers, and not managers of the executive or overseeing the executive. So those would be sort of the four first issues that I see. And those would be the things I'd like to work on.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Dixon. And next for this question is Mr. Sangvi. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. This is Ashwin Sangvi. I describe the reason I'm running is that there are three real important issues for me, and I call them one opportunity and two threats. The first threat is public safety, and we're right now a little oasis in a region that is now making national news for crime, homelessness, shutting big box businesses, that sort of thing. We're a bit lucky because we've got a good police department, but we want to keep it that way. The second big threat is housing. So I've talked to about 1,000 residents, and all of them, depending on whichever neighborhood they are in, they like the character of that neighborhood. And the kind of bills and plans that are coming down, which basically requires us to have 2,100 new housing units in a town where there's only 1.5% free space. That's like a 25% increase. That would break the basic fabric of Mukilteo. So we've got to get it, more normal there. But within that housing, we have specific needs. We've got a population that is skewed older. We need housing, senior housing. We also have young professionals who can't afford. So we've got to get options for them to build equity and buy. So that's kind of the housing issue. And the third is an opportunity. And that also is urgent because for the economic development of town, we need the waterfront developed, okay, and make it an attractive, vibrant place so that we can attract small and medium businesses to town.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Sangvi. And last for this question is Ms. Carlson. Please go ahead.
Hi. I like what a lot of people have said. I agree we need to be financially responsible, but I think we're not meeting our community where they are. We, in our forum tonight, what, do you think there were 50 people there? And there's quite a few more that live in Mukilteo. So we, as council members, need to reach out to the entire community, maybe encourage, as Mr. Khan said earlier, neighborhood watches. I'm a member of one. We know each other. We know who's there and who's not, who shouldn't be. That also cuts back on crime. But what could happen if you started more of those, like National Night Out Against Crime, a city council member comes and visits our gathering and talks to us about what we need. because we need more involvement in this process. So we don't just hear from a few people, but we hear from our city, what they want, what they need. And we can do that. We can do that. That would be, when you restated the question, I thought, well, that's a good one. I also am, where's my time? I'm also really in favor of establishing a senior center. We've got plans, we've got drawings, we've got a beautiful picture, we've got a spot. We just need the council to approve our location. The reason I want this so much is because we got about 2,500 seniors now, and by the way, they all vote. They need a spot early on dementia where they can come and be safe and have connections with other people, have wellness checks, have foot checks, get their toenails cut, eat a healthy meal prepared by a dietitian. We can do this. We've come up with funding where it won't hurt the city because you raise taxes and seniors get hit. So I think those are very important things. The waterfront, we need something now. And I mentioned tonight a simple fix. Let's get a touch tank down there where the NOAA building used to be, cover it with a roof, and let kids know what's in our waters and that they need to protect them. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Carlson, for that. We just completed the first of 7 questions. How about that? Congratulations, everybody. Mr. Khan, you will begin the second question, and we make sure everybody knows time. Please adjust the clock for 90 seconds. So you have 90 seconds on this question. And the question is, what qualifications and experience make you a good choice to address the issues that you've identified that are important for the city of Mukilteo? Mr. Khan, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. You know what? When I got home, I got confused the first question. I thought we were talking about the waterfront and development. It's not. So I realized, 2 issues, right? Right now, I can talk about the first and foremost issue right now is airport. The airport expansion is on the way right now. So here, the Mukilteo residents, they don't want to see all the loud and the noise, like nighttime. So what I'm proposing right now is to make a curfew from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. That is the issue right now going on, the first thing. And the second thing is the crime in Mukilteo is going up and up. So what I'm proposing right now to hire more police officers to patrol the cities and get more people to involve to become neighborhood watch captains. So those are the 2 issues which are most important right now for Mukilteo. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Next for this question is Ms. Vago. Please go ahead.
Well, I have integrity and honesty for starters, and I don't make empty promises or hand out platitudes. I always do my best to mean what I say and do what I mean. I take on tough tasks and I stay up to date on current events so I know what is happening in the community and at a state level. I look at both sides of all issues so I can make informed decisions and do my best to find alternatives that will work for both sides. Mukilteo has a diverse community, and I believe it's important to meet people from the perspective of their culture. In my working life, I was sales support for new and renewal business, did analysis for renewal contracts, database management, and worked with clients in home office. I've received merit raises and recognition for my teamwork building and developing systems to increase office efficiency. I love a good challenge, and being a candidate is maybe the biggest one I've undertaken yet. And so I look forward to expanding my horizons and helping to build a stronger city.
Thanks, Ms. Vago. All right, next up for this question is Mr. Dixon. Please go ahead.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Wonderful question. My background, I have actually served 3 terms, as I'd mentioned earlier, as a water sewer commissioner. That's, I think, a really fantastic experience because at Alderwood Water and Wastewater District, we actually had a $100 million annual budget and a $500 million operating plan. That's the equipment that we put in the ground. So during that course of time, we would review plans from our engineers, our professional engineers, establish long-range plans, set the rates for your water sewer utility, address a whole score of issues, and also participate in regional bodies such as MUPAC. MUPAC is the Metropolitan Water and Wastewater Pollution Advisory Committee. And that's the committee that actually worked with the Department of Ecology and a variety of stakeholders from King County to Snohomish County to clean up Puget Sound and make it habitable and drinkable again. So that sort of experience is what I'm going to bring to bear. I have also been appointed as the chairman of the Diversity Commission for the city. I have a strong academic background, have a master's in business administration and an undergraduate degree from MIT, and I've worked for 30 years in business in the private sector. So I think all of those experiences will help me to bring a useful voice to the council. I'll bring a fair amount of energy as well, and I look forward to the challenge.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Next up for this question is Mr. Sangvi. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. The challenges that I laid out is going to require drive, problem solving, persistence, and partnering are the main aspects of this thing here. And in my background, I always take an initiative. I started my first startup at age 25. I've started new products in new markets at Microsoft 5 times over. And of course, a lot of problem solving. I hold about 60 patents. In terms of partnering, we had 2 big partnerships with companies you would think are adversaries of Microsoft, and I made them very successful. So much so that, of course, it needs persistence. I drove these products all the way to $1 billion, including those partnerships. These are the main skills required. And my success is really based on one thing, which is I've got a single-minded focus on the customer. In this case, it would be the resident. That's why I've said I've talked to about 1,000. So with that kind of a focus, I think we'll be able to achieve what our people want. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Carlson, please go ahead.
May I ask to have the second half of the question repeated?
Sure thing. It's the question is, what qualifications and experience make you a good choice to address the issues that you raised in the first question?
All right, thank you. Well, I do have business experience from when I worked for the post office. I have diversity experience. I'd like to talk to you, Mike, sometime about that, being something called a women's program coordinator in the post office. But my experience in this city has been in leadership in so many different places. I'm still president of the Senior Association. I was president of the Community Garden. I've been president of Mukilteo Kiwanis on several commissions. Worked with some of you before. Richard started the Gulch Committee and got that beautiful park for us. He and several other people who were there tonight. I'm just impressed with how much a few people can do in our community. And I don't know if I have time. I'm going to do it again, Donna. I read this earlier, and I think it's really important. If you want to be a true professional, you will do something outside yourself, something to repair tears in your community, something to make life a little better for people less fortunate than you. That's what I think a meaningful life is, living not for oneself, but for one's community. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And thank you for this opportunity. It's very kind of you all. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Carlson. Mr. Emery, you get to wrap this up on this question number 2, please. You're on mute, Richard.
Thank you. This will probably work better. Okay, my best qualification is my 14 years of experience on the city council. I've become very knowledgeable about all aspects of managing the budget, including income sources, restrictions on the use of various operating and capital funds, the importance of thoughtful policies and procedures, the roles and responsibilities of department heads and the mayor, and my institutional memory has been invaluable in many ways. but I didn't arrive on council with all that experience and perspective. Almost everything I did prior to being appointed turned out to be very useful in helping me become an effective council member. First was my training and experience as a crisis counselor, which taught me and gave me skills in active listening, how to be asked open-ended, non-judgmental questions, and an overall positive communication approach that has been very helpful in facilitating discussions with staff, council members, and mayors and reaching consensus on many issues. When I was a realtor, I learned about real estate and contracts, which was especially useful when I was involved with preserving Japanese Gulch as a park. It also helped me understand land use issues, easements, wetland designations, and protections, and more. Other parts of my life included 35 years operating a small business doing home repair and renovation. And also I worked with various nonprofit agencies where I hired and managed employees, developed employee benefit programs, supervised departments, applied for and managed grants, supervised volunteer construction, and worked closely with Habitat for Humanity in many capacities that resulted in 23 affordable housing units with Habitat for Humanity.
Thank you, Mr. Emery. And now we begin the set of questions, a set of 5 questions that will be at 60 seconds. So timer, please note that. And we will begin question number 3, again at 60 seconds, with Ms. Vago. Please go ahead. Oh, the question, you might help to get the question, right? What measures, if any, would you support to keep housing options affordable in your city?
So the state has several new laws mandating all fully planning cities under the Growth Management Act to include affordable housing in their comprehensive plans. Mukilteo is in compliance with the Growth Management Act. We currently have a mix of housing, 60% is single family, 40% is multifamily, with also including mixed use buildings and low income. However, planning for more housing here is problematic due to our geographical limitations. Highway 525 is the only road that goes the length of the city and is also a ferry route that carries a lot of ferry traffic. I oppose these mandates because it infringes on Mukilteo's right to plan our very unique city that needs to balance this kind of growth with our limitations to build new roads. Lastly, Mukilteo is a waterfront city and real estate is expensive here, so market forces will play a role.
Thanks, Ms. Vago. And now, Mr. Dixon, please.
Could you repeat the question?
Of course. The question is about affordability, affordable housing. What measures, if any, would you support to keep housing options affordable in the city of Mukilteo?
Okay. As candidate Vago had just explained, House Bill 1110 and 1337 are actually the law of the state. House Bill 1110, they were both signed by the governor in June. House Bill 1110 mandates multiplexing must be accepted by the city's planners if it's a single family zoned area and the owner wishes to do that. In the case of Mukilteo as a tier 3 city, that would be a duplex only. House Bill 1337 mandates that if you want to, you can add a attached or a detached auxiliary dwelling unit to your property for single family. And if you choose to do that, there's nothing that the planners at the city can stop you in terms of permitting. So those are the laws. What I would do to support affordability, I think the ADU approach is probably going to address affordability more so. Putting a duplex in a pretty expensive area is not necessarily going to drive costs down, but maybe adding an ADU might. But these are the laws, and we have to figure out how to address them.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Mr. Sambi, please go ahead.
Yes, very interesting problem. Affordability really is this gap between the real income that residents are making and what it costs to have a house. And we have the factors of just the interest rates, which have gone sky high. We've got prices that have remained high, and even taxes. In fact, there is another bill coming 5770 that is going to even increase the property taxes further. It can go over time 3x. So all of these makes it really, really hard for having affordability. At the same time, compared to our neighbors, we are more affordable today. So what can be done? Okay, first, of course, thank you, Dixon. You listed out the laws. Some of them we can use to our benefits. The first one I would say is we are skewed old right now in Mukilteo, and the senior folks would want lower cost senior housing, and they will downsize and actually make room for newer, younger families to come in. So we've got to, whatever free space we have, remember, we have only 1.5%.
Mr. Sanvi, I'm sorry, we're out of time. Just 60 seconds on this question.
Yeah.
My apologies, but yes.
Sorry.
That's all right. Thank you for your remarks on this question. Next up will be Mr. Emery. I'm sorry, Ms. Carlson. Then Mr. Emery. There you go. Ahead, Dodie. Thank you.
I love this.
You're on
so
mute.
Much fun. I'm good now. Thank you, Ashwin, for starting this discussion about seniors. I had argued that. I discussed that with the housing action plan process, and again, I've got 150 members in our group, and I know quite a few seniors. We live in these homes that sooner or later we're not going to be able to stay in. So I can do a small house. I've got family, and we've talked about it, and that might happen. But really, even senior housing, who's going to do that? Land is so expensive here. It would have to be subsidized by somebody. Even cottage houses are going for a lot more money than I ever thought they would. So we're kind of in a bind. I would love to see that happen, and thank you for bringing it up. But I think it's a long shot. And maybe just allowing seniors to have roommates that pay them. I don't know the answer to that, but there's just no land here, and we're landlocked. I think that Donna brought that up. Somebody else did, but we're landlocked, so there's nowhere.
Thank you, Ms. Carlson. Thank you. That's all right. Thank you, Mr. Emery. Please go ahead.
Sure. Well, as we can tell from everyone's struggle to answer this question, it's difficult, and it's because we don't have a lot of land that we can develop for housing at this point. We do have some opportunities around the city for mixed-use development, which would be businesses on the ground floor and living units above that. That would make some of the units a little bit more affordable, and might be a resource for some of our seniors who are still active and can manage getting up and down. I think I agree with other comments that with the state law that the city doesn't have a lot of say in whether a homeowner in a single family zone wants to have a duplex or an ADU unit on their property. But I don't see that happening a lot. The neighborhoods are going to resist that. That's going to not go over well. I don't think that's going to be a solution to our affordable housing or our senior housing issues. Senior housing issues could also be ameliorated somewhat by a program to get roommates matched with seniors who may need help to stay in their homes. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Emery. Mr. Khan, you have the last at this question number 3. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much again. You know what? I would like to bring up what is Mukilteo about. Mukilteo is all about the water city. Okay. So Mukilteo is already an affordable city. You know, people live in Mukilteo on Section 8 and subsidize, rental income capita. And what happened was last year, former mayor and former council member and the current mayor, Joe Marine, and all the council members sent out a ballot to the public to choose what is needed. So over 75% turned out to be negative. So I think most of the Mukilteo residents, they don't want high-rise buildings, which is not in favor of the city. So beside the point, right, I support, the senior center. I supported the comprehensive plan to support senior housing, and I care for our seniors. We need a senior center in our town.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. That concludes everyone for question number 3 on the affordability housing question. Number 4, somewhat related, is on homelessness. The question is, and again, 60 seconds. Homelessness is a growing issue for many in our communities. As a council member, what solutions would you propose? And we'll begin with Mr. Dixon.
Fantastic. one of the things that the city has done very well, and they were able to use the ARPA funds, that's the American Rescue Plan Act dollars that we received, about $6 million, and we used some of that money to pay for an embedded social worker who was a half full-time equivalent employee, so half-time available. And what that enables is if you have the embedded social worker embedded with the policeman, when the policemen go out to interdict a homeless person, all of a sudden the social worker can chat with the homeless person and open up a whole variety of services that they can then place that person into. Without that embedded social worker, the policeman doesn't have those sorts of tools. They're not trained, nor can they access all of those types of programs. You can't criminalize homelessness. People have needs, and that's why they're there on the street. But what you can do is meet them with a social worker to place them into the places where they need to be. So I would strongly support funding more embedded social workers in the law enforcement.
Thanks, Mr. Dixon. Mr. Zombie, please go ahead.
Yes, the approach of housing first is a very blunt instrument, and applied that to homelessness is not producing good results. What I'll ask to change is first enable with a social worker and some ordinances, the police to be able to talk to these folks who are homeless. And once we can identify what is the cause of homelessness, do the appropriate thing. So for example, a normal person who's looking for a job, separate them out from the folks who are addicts or mentally ill, because getting them together is actually retarding the job hunt for the person who's looking for. And then there are special tools we have for the other folks, and some of it will require civil commitment to make this happen. These drugs are really, really bad. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Carlson, please.
Oh, I like this question. I have I'm involved with several nonprofits, and there's some that work on Casino Road that provide I guess a place for kids on Casino to come to and use computers and be together. They make sure they've got enough food to take home to their family. So they're showing kids hope. The other one is Leadership Launch. They go to schools. You got a kid that needs a little assistance. They get them a mentor, and they mentor them through 4 years of school. And those kids go on to help other people. One time they came up with a dental clinic down on Casino Road. There are so many people reaching out to help people and prevent that problem. The second thing is that a church on Katy Road that built small houses to take people in. So I think we aren't giving enough, I don't know, shout outs. Okay, I'm done.
Thanks, Ms. Carlson. Appreciate it. Okay, next up for this question is Mr. Emery. Please go ahead.
It's actually a very complicated issue in many, many ways. First is we need to understand the various reasons people become homeless, because there may not be a one-size-fits-all solution. A significant factor for many who are now unhoused, they were housing burdened. People who are housing burdened are only one paycheck away from becoming homeless due to illness or some other disaster. And then being homeless is profoundly stressful, and some of the unhoused eventually turn to drugs to manage their anxiety. We have a bunch of different vectors that are combining here to make this problem very difficult to solve. But an effective solution needs to find ways to get the currently unhoused back into a stable housing situation, also create systems that will prevent others from losing their homes. And the third element has to be adequate funding for mental health and substance abuse treatment and secure housing. None of these can be accomplished quickly, unfortunately. The effort to have tiny houses and to buy motels to provide people an opportunity, as Mr. Sangvi mentioned, who might want to, there's so much more to say.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Emery. Appreciate it. Sorry for the 60 seconds, but thank you for all cooperating. And now, Mr. Khan, please go ahead.
Yes, homelessness is growing faster in Mukilteo. Homelessness is growing in the different parts of Mukilteo. that is followed by the drug used, which brings crime to our beloved city, Mukilteo. I want to see Mukilteo has safe streets. That is what I support. Police department, and a social worker program. Social worker program is very important right now to have discussion between the people who doesn't have the needy things. So right now the people do not have the sleeping bags. Right now they're borrowing the tents from neighboring cities. So right now the social worker we have one. So I'm proposing for like few more to be added to decrease this type of homelessness in Mukilteo. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Ms. Vego, please go ahead.
You cannot talk about homelessness without also addressing the drug addiction problem, which is the primary cause for homelessness. First, we take them off the street and away from the drugs. And then we put them in a specially designed wing of the jail for drug addicts and do not allow them to leave until they are detoxed. This provides a safe place for them to detox under supervision. Next, we present them with either the option to go into temporary housing that includes a continuum of care or go to jail. If this was my family member, I would want that for them. I wouldn't want them to be left in the street to suffer and cause harm to others or continue to be a drug user. For the non-drug addicts, especially if their families, offer them temporary housing and support services, help them find employment and permanent housing. These services are offered at the county and state levels, but Mukilteo Police and Fire would play a part in this system. We have a great fire and police department here in Mukilteo. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vego. All right, that concludes question number 4. And now we're going to move to question number 5. Again, 60 seconds. Sorry, but you're all doing very good. Thank you with cooperating on that. So the question is, all local jurisdictions are required to update their comprehensive plans in 2024. Are there changes or additions to the current plan that you would suggest? Please explain. And we'll begin this question number 5 with Mr. Sangvi. Please go ahead, Ashman.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, as part of the Planning Commission, I'm very familiar with the comp plan. I think the first thing we need to do is reconcile it with all these bills that have been passed, which is HB 1110s, 1337, and so on, because some of the problems that they're asking for the answers for that could be in it. The second thing is focus on, as I said, senior and condominiums for young professionals, and then take advantage of the bill that allows you to build on top of commercial to have more affordable housing. I would say these are the big ones. In the comp plan, of course, other than housing, there are other areas like parks and waterfront and so on. But given the time, this is what I would like to focus on. Also, I would like to decrease our limits because they've unnecessarily made us a transit city.
Thank you very much. And now, Ms. Carlson, please go ahead.
Well, I am a big champion of putting a senior center in our plan. Again, we've done all the homework about how to fund it. It won't be city funded, and it won't be city people running it. But I'd also like to see that waterfront development now. I'm kind of tired of waiting for things to happen. So I guess senior center, and gosh, I have a half a minute left. I think we're in a good place in this city, and really to worry about building more stuff. With Tackett was going to build a little thing down where the parking lot is. That was a great idea with housing on top, but he got tired and didn't want to do it. So there's hope. I think there's hope. Let's always hope. Okay, done. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Carlson. Mr. Emery, please go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I would review the existing zoning and land use throughout the city with the goal of determining where more mixed-use development would be appropriate and to determine what other changes might be needed to be made to accommodate the new state laws and GMA requirements for population growth. I would also include policy statements that address climate change and actions the city can take, and that would educate citizens on what they can do to their part to help address climate change. Other than that, I would agree with a senior center as a goal. The comp plan is a map and a statement of policy and goals, and that seems that was a worthwhile goal. But those are mine, and I think I can be shorter this time.
All right. Thank you for that. Mr. Khan, please go ahead.
Yes. This one, like the comprehensive plan for 2024. So being a city council member, you know what, I have been always supporting to have a good plan to start a senior housing. And also I have, I have a strong suggestion, and
You went on mute, Riaz. There you go.
oh, sorry. So was comprehensive plan to support senior center, senior housing, and I care for our seniors and I support senior center. So right now, the most important thing for housing here, right? I feel like we should increase the ceiling for rental for condos. Right now it's 10%. If we go by like 20%, that should be added in this comprehensive plan. I'm also focusing on completely and the fastest way to develop waterfront. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. Ms. Vago, please go ahead.
Oh, okay. I've read through Mukilteo's comprehensive plan just recently, and it's a good, well thought out plan, and it's won an award, in fact, so it's difficult to find any shortcomings in it. One thing I would like to see changed that is being mandated by the state is rezoning single-family neighborhoods for more density. I would like to keep high-density housing along 525 and not rezone single-family neighborhoods. Mukilteo has geographical limitations affecting infrastructure, and all roads lead to 525, which also carries a lot of ferry traffic. So traffic flow along 525 needs to be considered when planning for density. One other item I would like to add to the plan is to offer services for locally owned and startup businesses. I would like to see a dedicated committee to assist businesses to navigate through the permitting processes and help them to find financing.
Thank you. And Mr. Dixon, you get to have the last word on this question.
Fantastic. No, everything that I've heard so far makes very good sense. I think in terms of the planning process, a couple of ideas. One is the comp plan is only done every 8 years. One of the things that we implemented in the in Alderwood Water Wastewater District was that we implemented this concept of a living dynamic plan, where you bring in aspects of it and you continuously update smaller pieces of those. Why that's important is because if you're going to be planning on an 8 to 10 year horizon, and then you've sort of stuck the executive in executing against that horizon, you made that plan 8 years ago. Reality changes in real time. And so if you can have more of a dynamic planning process where you continually fine-tune little bits of it, I think that's an element that would be helpful in terms of changing it. I would love to see a strong and robust economic development element in the plan, and that's something that I'll be focused on as we have these conversations. I would also note that the population of Mukilteo has not really changed much, that it's a 0.5% compounded annual growth rate over the last 10 years. We're never going to hit 25,000 population until 2045. So we do have some room to kind of improve what we're doing and have a better vision.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Appreciate it. So that wraps up question number 5. And can you believe it? We're number 6 is the next to the last question. So we're getting closer here. This is about climate change, and we'll begin this question with Ms. Carlson. And the question simply is, what actions, if any, would you propose to respond to our changing climate? Ms. Carlson, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I only get 1 minute. Oh, that's terrible. When I was in my 20s, my sister was a very ardent recycler long before it was popular. And I took a great class on the Salish Sea and how we're killing it. So climate change is real. It's happening. And the ferry put in a dock that raises with the tide because they know the water's gonna come up. So our Washington State ferries know what's happening. The Arctic is melting at a rapid pace. We've got to take it seriously here. I know Richard's an environmentalist, and I love him for it. Excuse me, I can't say that. I respect him for that. I believe in it. I know we can do something about it. I'm a master gardener. We've gone after that problem for a long time. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Carlson. Mr. Emery, please.
I would cancel permit fees for solar panel and EV charging stations in residences and businesses. I would provide incentive for businesses to provide charging stations for EV. Costa Rica does this. It's been successful. Provide incentives for energy efficient upgrades in homes and businesses. The idea is to reduce the carbon footprint and convert appliances to electric instead of gas. Establish a city policy to replace gas, HVAC, water heaters, etc., electric units when it's time to replace them in its buildings, and also to maximize energy efficiency in its buildings. That saves the city money as well as helps the environment. Establish a city policy to require when cars reach the end of their life to see if hybrids or EV vehicles would work in their place, and create a position to educate and encourage residents on actions they can do that will also help impact climate change. We can work with other cities on that. We also need to cooperate with other cities on all of these, including reducing commuting traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Khan, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, sir. You know what? Actually, I was in Climate Action Committee with Council Member Emery. I think we have made a lot of changes the prior year. We're talking about the green vision, the reduced carbon. So the climate change was the main topic about a few years ago, and until now, I think is the best to have, to make green vision. So what we proposed last time on working with the solar panel companies to bring solar panels, giving incentives to people who install solar panels on the roof. And in fact, we have done some solar panel work on Rose Hill, and also installing charging stations on different places, and also giving incentives out to the electric vehicles who use the electric chargers, and also giving out the plants to the residents, Mukilteo. If they plant 1 or 2 trees every quarterly, we should give them out some sort of incentives, recognition to the entire community. So therefore, we motivated a lot of people.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Appreciate it. And Ms. Vago, please go ahead.
I say we reduce the use of poisonous chemicals that pollute water and oceans and create waste material. We create way too much pollutants. Mother Nature has cycles of climate change, and I'm not convinced these changes are man-made as much as they are just natural cycles. I'm not saying that absolves us from our overuse of man-made chemicals. That still needs to be addressed. However, it could be argued the greater concern facing humanity is not climate change, but how broken our communities are. We have lost touch with how precious we are to one another, how dependent we are on community for love and acceptance, and even survival. We are strongest when we are in a community, and that bond has been broken. We suffer from an epidemic of addictions. Everything from food to social media to drugs to owning material objects have been turned into some form of addiction. And we are susceptible to these addictions when we become isolated from community. There should be more focus on restoring communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon, please go ahead.
Well, I actually worked in clean tech for about 8 years and currently do work in that space now. Vehicle electrification, adding solar into the grid, these are fantastic things, and there's real money available. The way that you encompass it typically, though, is in a sustainability framework. So most major corporations, most large entities develop what's called a sustainability plan. And so that's a fantastic opportunity to create a sustainability element in our comprehensive plan. Some of the things that I've heard discussed, there are federal dollars available for that. There's a fair amount of funding available for tax incentives for adding electric vehicles, for vehicle electrification, for fleet electrification. And then on top of that, there's renewable portfolio standards at the state level, which actually guide people to be able to develop, to add solar into their homes, so that the utilities can consume that renewable energy source, for their distribution. So I would support all of the things that we talked about, but I think we need to wrap it up into a sustainability plan.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Mr. Zombie, please go ahead.
Yes. When I hear the national level experts, when they were asked that if you want to go spend the $50 trillion they're asking for, how much would the planet cool by? They could not answer that. So as an engineer, I would basically take a more practical approach at the council level, right? We have limited things that we can do. So number one, be ready for it. Okay, so instead of trying to stop the climate change, do we have the infrastructure to sustain it? And what I mean by that is there will be days of lots of rain, but the surface water infrastructure withstand that. As people go for more and more electrical vehicles, we'll need stronger bridges and parking lots. Do we have that? Manage the pollution and have more greenery in people's backyards and parks. These are the type of things that we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes question number 6. And yes, we're on the last question. So question number 7, and we'll begin this question with you, Mr. Emery. The question is a very not necessarily a policy question at all. It's a kind of a personal question. Please tell us something about your life experiences that might surprise or intrigue voters. So yeah, please tell us something about your life experience that might surprise or intrigue voters. Mr. Emery, please.
Thank you for a really interesting and intriguing question. There were a number of things that came to mind in my life that might surprise people and might inform you. I'm going to focus on one of them. Back in the 80s, I spent about 3 years living off the grid on 70 acres in eastern Washington, up on the side of a mountain with a bunch of other families who were doing the same thing. We all, for some reason, thought it was going to be a lot of fun to go back to the 1880s and live without electricity or running water. And it was an interesting experience. It was a great place to visit, but most of us decided we didn't really want to live there. But it was a valuable experience for me and my family in many ways. My kids learned about the importance of water and how to husband it and make it, and use it wisely. They learned a lot about community, and that's why I learned a lot about community too. We built a community center. We had weekly potlucks there. We helped each other build our houses. We helped each other with childcare, and that was so. Anyhow, it taught me a lot about community that I carry with me today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Emery. Appreciate it. Sorry, we don't have more time on this question. Mr. Khan, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you again. 60 seconds too short. Okay, can give the few things here. You know what? Always I feel like life always teaches new lessons every day. Life is so precious. And we're talking about the surprises. The surprise, I feel like I am a DEI person. My opponent is also DEI. And the biggest surprise for me is running against DEI. It doesn't make, I don't feel comfortable at all. But I'm going to go for the short story. I came from a small village where there was no water at all. The woman used to travel almost half a kilometer to get the water. So I promised them when I get to America, I will make sure I work hard and I will send money to India to make a water power station there to have water every house in the village. I have done it. I feel so surprised, I think I feel so comfortable now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Ms. Vago, please go ahead.
Yeah, when I was living in Southern California, there was a market crash in our neighborhood. And so a lot of investors came in and bought some of our houses and turned them into Section 8 rentals. And so we had an increase in home burglaries and car thefts, and there was a lot of drug and violence in the schools. So I became the neighborhood watch captain and worked with the county sheriff because we didn't have a local police department at the time. But having that connection between neighbors made everyone just feel a little bit safer. And so having had that experience made me appreciate the value of community and how important it is to protect it. And it's one of the reasons I am running for council today, to protect our neighbors and build a stronger community. And I do have one really odd thing, is that when I was younger, I dated a famous NHRA funny car car drag race driver. Forget it. I didn't say that. Just forget that, Mark.
That's all right. I think we caught the gist of that, Donna.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Dixon, please go ahead.
Sure. Life experience. I'm from the Caribbean originally. I'm a child of Barbadian immigrants, actually. My dad has a third grade education, but he was self-employed. He started a little mechanic shop and turned it into a body shop and a mechanic shop. And then he started renting cars and doing a whole host of things. And my mom went to college at night because she had a GED. And so my background, we really prize education. It was something that we valued as a way to sort of ascend and pursue the American dream that we were privileged to be able to experience in the United States Virgin Islands. And so I'd say what that's informed for me is a couple of things. I believe that we do need to have ladders to opportunity throughout society. I think that's incredibly important. That's why people come here. And so I want to always support and be mindful of folks who may start at a small place, but they can go somewhere. And if we have ladders of opportunity for them, and that should inform policy across the board. So that's something that's important to me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dixon. Mr. Sambi, please go ahead.
Yes. So here's an intriguing story. There is a book on Amazon. It's called Madhouse: The True Stories of the Inmates of Hostel 4, IIT Bombay. And it opens with me as the main character in there. I'm not the main character, but one of the 5 main characters. Okay, and it is a book of real stories, each one of them hilarious. Now, this book came about because I met my old friends, and there was an email thread, and people got added in, and it was enough content in there to be a book. Anyways, it hit bestseller for a while, and it made enough money to take care of the retirement of all the folks who were cooking and cleaning in the dorm when we were there. It was so because a lot of characters in there are like, captains of the industry worldwide in the book. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been amazing to hear the different stories. And Dodie, you get to have the last word on this question. Please go ahead.
Oh, my favorite thing to do. I had so many different things, but I thought about the Master Gardener program, and I'm on the awards committees for the state and the local level, and how many people give back to the community and fight for the environment and teach people how to take care of our waterways. So that's a great thing. And Donna, I think I have a beat. A guy who went to Cascade High School who became a famous TV star and deserves every bit of his recognition asked me out once. He will be unnamed, but never mind. Anyway, life is good. Thank you for the opportunity. Bye.
Thank you, Dodie. And well, that's I can't believe it. That wraps it up. The league thanks all of you as candidates for joining us and for running for office. A recording of this forum and others will be available on the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County website and the YouTube channel. You can find the links at lwvsnoho.org. That's lwvsnoho.org. We encourage you to explore additional information about these and all the candidates for the city of Mukilteo. The Snohomish County voter pamphlet, as we know, will be mailed out starting October 19th in a couple of weeks. And then, of course, the vote411.org, sponsored by the League, is another good source of information. And most importantly, the ballots. The ballots will be mailed starting October 19th. So please fill those out as soon as you get them. Election day is November 7th. We want to thank also our League candidate forum team. A special thanks to Dave Moon and the Sultan School students at turkpride.tv who made this live stream possible. And of course, thank all of our viewers for joining us this evening as well. I think the city of Mukilteo will be in good hands no matter who, whoever of you get elected. I think it's you've been terrific tonight. Appreciate your dedication and commitment to running for public office. This concludes our candidates forum. Thank you all.